Welcome to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Arey, and this is all the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in WandaVision Episode 2. When the episode begins, Wanda and Vision are sleeping in twin beds. Believe it or not, this is how couples were portrayed on classic TV shows in the 50s and early 60s, such as The Dick Van Dyke Show and Leave It to Beaver. Now eventually, TV couples like the Munsters and the Bradys broke new ground by actually implying that your parents might sometimes enjoy sex. In fact, this whole scene seems like a tribute to this scene from the Brady Bunch.
It sounded more like a noise.
Wanda,
Yes, dear.
are you using your powers to turn on the light?
Yes, dear.
Allow me, sweetheart.
Now at the end of this scene, Wanda merges their twin beds into one. This has actually several meanings. One, it symbolizes the way that TV sitcoms evolved through the years. Sitcoms initially portrayed a warped kind of reality, where the dad went to work and the mom wore a nice house dress and pearls, and all was white with the world. All was right with the world. In this show, it seems like Wanda has created this pocket universe that mimics a TV show. In our episode 1 video, I theorized that she grew up watching American sitcoms in Sokovia, and this is how she always envisioned a perfect American life. In fact, the name of this town, Westview, could be because this is how she views the Western world. But eventually, TV sitcoms did catch up with reality. Married couples actually slept in the same bed, people discussed political issues, and eventually, sitcom dads even used the toilet.
Oh, look, Dad, I'm sitting on my own Ferguson. Just like you always knew I would.
And the opening ends with the couple conceiving the baby that Wanda is carrying at the end of the episode. Just as their family expands, the scope of this reality Wanda has created is expanding as well. In the last episode, the sitcom set was sparse, and the cul-de-sac where they lived was mostly empty. But now, Wanda is beginning to fill in the details of this reality. This episode moves past the 3-camera sitcom look favored in the first episode. Now we actually see close-ups of the characters as they stand on real street sets. This is much more like the sitcom The Andy Griffith Show, which was actually filmed on the largest set in Hollywood at that time. The opening credits are a direct copy of the show Bewitched.
WandaVision!
Now the premise of this show was that a witch married a normal man, and they were trying to hide her supernatural powers from their suburban neighborhood.
Are you not at all worried that the audience might just see through this little charade?
Now the theme and the subtext being that, in this milquetoast bland American suburbs, everyone is hiding a secret, the one thing that makes them unusual, just so they can fit in. This trope was repeated in many sitcoms over the years, like Small Wonder, where the family has a robot daughter, or Alf, where the family is harboring an alien. And that's what Wanda's doing here. So Wanda knows subconsciously that if she and Vision were discovered, then this perfect reality would end. In this show, Wanda is not only hiding the secret from her neighbors, but she's hiding her secret from herself, trying to preserve this perfect reality that she's created. But more on that later. In the opening credits, we see the motto of Westview is home. It's where you make it. This is actually implying a couple things. One, that Wanda has made this reality, but also making it was 60s slang for doing it. Which Wanda and Vision do in the episode's cold open. And this object looks like the helmet of the villain, the Grim Reaper. His real name is Eric Williams, the brother of Simon Williams, who, in the comics, the Vision's brain patterns were modeled after. In the supermarket, there's a poster for Bova milk. In the comics, and this gets weird, so stay with me, Bova is a mutated cow midwife who delivered Wanda and her brother Pietro at a secluded mountain science lab built by a mad eugenicist genetically engineering an army of animal men with robot horses and the power of King Arthur's knights to fight an evil spirit that lived on the same mountain. Yep, comics. And this poster says Wonder Oats, a reference to Wonder Man. In the comics, Vision's mind was actually created from Wonder Man's brainwaves. And finally, this poster says Auntie A's kitty litter. This is a reference to Agatha Harkness. Now in the comics, she's a witch who's been around since the Salem witch trials. She actually trains Wanda how to use magic in conjunction with her mutant powers. The poster also features a black cat. This is Ebony, Agatha Harkness's transforming cat from the comics. Vision and Wanda are rehearsing their magic act, where his stage name is Illusion and hers is Glamour. But glamour isn't just a magazine, it also means a magical disguise, just like Wanda has disguised her true powers from this neighborhood and is hiding this entire illusion from reality.
No.
Vision's stage name, Illusion, could just be a reference to his name, because after all, illusions are visions. Or it could imply that he hasn't actually been resurrected and this is all playing out in her mind. I doubt it though, and we actually have a whole video coming out tomorrow about how Wanda could have brought the Vision back. Just subscribe to catch that one. And did you notice that on the cabinet is the Mind Stone just like it appears in Vision's forehead? This could be a reference to the cabinet making people appear and disappear, just like Wanda shattered the stone to make him disappear. Wanda's fashion and hairstyle are very much like Mary Tyler Moore's from The Dick Van Dyke Show, when she says to Vision,
This is our home now. I want us to fit in.
Oh, darling, we do.
It's one of the rare moments in this episode where she breaks out of this TV reality and addresses him, the person. She's imploring him not to question this reality, to just accept it so they can live here in peace. And as we see at the end of the episode, Vision's curious nature does threaten to unravel what she's created here. The next morning, she finds a toy helicopter in a bush that is actually colorized. So there's a lot to unpack here. One, this helicopter came from the outside world. It probably flew close to Wanda's little pocket reality and she subconsciously turned it into a toy. Now notice this symbol. That's the logo of the organization's sword. In the comics, they're like S.H.I.E.L.D., but for outer space threats. But in the MCU, the acronym has changed. In the comics, it stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department. But in the MCU, it stands for Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Department. That's an important distinction. World implies that they guard Earth from aliens. Sentient weapon sounds like they protect Earth from superpowered individuals like Wanda. But also, the appearance of a colorized object in a black and white world calls to mind the movie Pleasantville. In that film, two modern-day teens are transported into a 1950s sitcom and they gradually colorize it as it becomes more tolerant and modern. Just like in Pleasantville, colorizing in WandaVision means that their lives are becoming more complicated and edging closer to the real world. Just as sitcoms evolve to portray life closer to reality, Westview is slowly moving toward real life. Outside, she meets Agnes, and it's very likely that she's playing Agatha Harkness. She's wearing a brooch like Agatha's, and in the last episode, she wore a cape like Agatha does. And look, she's got some other agenda here. Notice that she seems to know that Wanda is the center of this reality.
It's the star of the show!
This also might remind you of The Truman Show, about a man who slowly becomes aware that his life is actually a TV show, while the people around him try to maintain the illusion. But this also seems like everyone is afraid of Wanda, like she's making them do this. This is very much like the Twilight Zone episode, It's a Good Life. In that episode, a house full of adults constantly placate an all-powerful child so he doesn't wipe them from existence.
You're a bad man. You're a very bad man.
Which begs the question, why does Agnes want Wanda to maintain this illusion? Well, I have a theory on that I'll get into at the end of the video because of potential spoilers. Let's talk about the pool club meeting. Now, like I said earlier, this is Wanda's ideal of a perfect American life. So she tries to copy Dottie, the perfect American wife. She also meets Geraldine, played by Perez. Now at D23 last year, Kevin Feige revealed that she's actually playing the grown-up Monica Rambeau. That's the little girl from Captain Marvel. It's very likely that she's playing a sword agent, and this was the helicopter that brought her into Wanda's reality. And notice the pin that Geraldine wears. This looks an awful lot like the sling ring portals that Doctor Strange opens, implying that Geraldine traveled here from the outside world. This sly reference to Doctor Strange could also be because Wanda is slated to star in the sequel, Multiverse of Madness. At the pool party, a radio transmission breaks in from the outside world.
Wanda. Who's doing this to you, Wanda?
Did you notice the way the radio cuts in to make Help Me Rhonda sound like Help Me Wanda?
Who is that?
Very clever. The important thing here is that this breaks Wanda's concentration, so Dottie suddenly starts to break down.
Who are you?
Because in this moment, Wanda doesn't know who she is. She's not an Avenger, she's a housewife. She's trying to recreate herself as someone without a past. Someone as superficial as a character in an old sitcom with no past, no problems, and a family. Now this is also from the comics, where Wanda's fondest wish is to be normal and have a family of her own. She even created a reality called House of M, where her father Magneto ruled the world, she wasn't a mutant, and she was just able to raise her twin boys. Now again, we see red, but this time it's the blood on Dottie's hand. Red is significant because it's the color of the Vision's skin, Scarlet Witch's costume, and most importantly, Wanda's energy powers. It's the color that first appeared in the last episode's toaster ad, and that colorizes the world permanently in this episode. And the Vision is even given big red gum. Vision approaches the neighborhood watch meeting like an Avenger, wanting to protect the town.
Often you rotate security patrols. Do you interface directly with local law enforcement? What are your protocols regarding threats such as burglary, graffiti, and reckless driving?
And he's disappointed when it turns out it's just a gossip club. Now this is a gag, but like everything else in this show, it has a double meaning. Vision is the one who's most skeptical of this reality. He's an analytical machine and wants to uncover the truth.
Would you be so good as to tell me what it is we do here exactly?
But the storyline here, where gum makes him drunk, stalls him from discovering that he's inside an illusion. It could be that these guys gave Vision gum specifically for that reason, to keep him from discovering the truth. Or perhaps Wanda subconsciously gave him the gum for the same reason.
And to think you came here all hot and bothered about protocols and nonsense.
His new friend here is named Herb. This could be a reference to Herbert Wyndham, the High Evolutionary. In the comics, Wanda was born in his laboratory that I mentioned earlier. And this episode reignites something that I've been saying for years. Gum is gross. It's like chewing a wad of sugar rubber that after a minute loses its flavor and tastes like an eraser. Gum is nasty and it should be outlawed. Singapore has that one right. The ad in this episode is for the Strucker watch and it features a Hydra symbol. Now, Von Strucker was, of course, the villain who first gave Wanda her powers. And this spokesperson has been a part of Hydra since way back in First Avenger, That's Your Mom. But the slogan here is also significant.
He'll make time for you.
Remember, in Infinity War, time is what Wanda and Vision want the most.
For 2 years, we stormed these moments, trying to see if this could work.
I'm sorry. We just wanted time.
Now this is the reason she created the pocket reality, so she and the Vision could have time together. During the talent show, Agnes name drops her husband Ralph.
You don't want an audience volunteer named My Husband Ralph? Oh.
Now at first, I thought this was imitating an old sitcom trope of off-screen spouses like Vera from Cheers or Maris from Frasier. But now I'm wondering if there is some other significance. Now either way, there's something up with Agnes that I'm going to talk about at the end of the video. After Wanda asks,
Is this really happening?
they're interrupted by another loud bang. Now, this time it's a sword agent in a beekeeper uniform surrounded by flies, or maybe bees. Wanda seems to understand what this is.
No.
And so she rewinds time to prevent this intruder from entering. Now, her ability to rewind is due to her control of this reality, but also because Wanda displays the power of every single Infinity Stone. Now, I go into this more detail in our video about how Wanda brought the Vision back, which, like I said, is going to be out tomorrow. After they kiss and Wanda is impregnated, their world is colorized, just like Pleasantville and the normal evolution of TV sitcoms as they were colorized in the 1960s. Now notice that she's wearing all red, and her shirt even looks like the swirling energy of the ether that she produces from her hands. But now let's talk about what's really going on here. Agnes is manipulating Wanda to have children. In the first episode, she wants her to seduce Vision.
What about seduction techniques?
And in this episode, she's the first to imply that Wanda might want to have kids.
Country club memberships, parties, school admissions.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
And then, of course, all through the episode, the townspeople drop the least subliminal messaging I've ever heard.
All of this is for the children.
For the children.
For the children.
For the children!
And it was all
For the children.
Agnes also distracts Wanda from the helicopter
Look.
because she doesn't want her to question this reality. Therefore, I think Agnes has encouraged Wanda to create this pocket reality so she'll get pregnant and have kids. But why is this? Well, let's refer to the comics. Like I said earlier, Agnes is likely Agatha Harkness, Wanda's mentor from the books. In the comics, Agatha provided Wanda with the energy that she used to imagine her children into existence. But later, when Wanda discovered the kids weren't real, Agatha erased them from her memory. Then later on, she remembered, she went crazy, committed mutant genocide. It was a whole thing, believe me. The point is, it was revealed that Wanda's children were actually shards of the soul of Mephisto. He's kind of like the devil in Marvel Comics. So her twins actually ended up being like Mephisto's Horcruxes. Now this is interesting because the sword agents rise up from the ground, or hell, and they are surrounded by flies, just like Mephisto is the Lord of Flies. Now this makes me wonder if Agnes is using Wanda to create children that will prevent Mephisto from reforming his soul. Or as a witch, she's actually Mephisto's servant and wants to help him become whole again. Either way, Mephisto could be that Ralph character that she keeps mentioning. The existence of the devil is actually heavily implied in this episode here.
The devil's in the details, Bev.
That's not the only place he is.
And also, the link to Mephisto could be part of the significance of the color red in the show. Well, that's all the Easter eggs I found, but if you found any, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Arey.